Hello there guys and welcome, it's Niran here, and today it is time, as you can see, as I'm stepping into my Williams, it is time for Williams Road to Recovery episode 6. I'm here in Monaco on a pretty cloudy and overcast day out there in the background, and yeah, I love this track, but at the same time I've not had a huge amount of practice of it even. As you can see here, I'm just about to change the race strategy to set it so that I change my option tyres for primes, a new set of primes at the pit stops on lap 9, and go for a normal fuel strategy rather than aggressive or cautious. But now it is time for the Monaco qualifying report. In Q1, both Williamses would struggle, only just making it through in 15th and 16th, as Esteban Gutierrez dropped out along with Jean-Eric Vergne, who didn't even set a time. Sebastian Vettel was fastest in the meantime, ahead of Nico Rosberg. Things got a lot better for Williams in an incident-packed Q2, which saw crashes for both Nico Rosberg and Nico Hülkenberg, as Yusufu made it through to Q3, with Maldonado so close in 11th. He would be joined in elimination by both Force India's and Daniel Ricciardo, whilst Alonso was fastest by a full second over Sebastian Vettel. Alonso would keep up his pace in the shootout by grabbing pole ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa, making it a great day for Ferrari. It would be a bad day, however, for Red Bull, with Webber 4th and Sebastian Vettel only 10th. So all of this means that Fernando Alonso will be on pole for the Monaco Grand Prix ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Felipe Massa and Mark Webber. The two Lotuses of Raikkonen and Grosjean will be 5th and 6th, with Perez and Button 7th and 8th. Yusufu will be 9th for Williams, with Vettel only in 10th for Red Bull. So then, another pretty good qualifying report here in 9th, getting into Q3 again here, this time in Monaco as I go out onto the grid. Past Maldonado, unlucky, only to get 11th and to just miss out on the shootout, but he's got a good chance of getting into the points. A really action-packed qualifying session. I saw 4 crashes. I saw Rosberg, Hülkenberg, Vettel and Jean-Eric Vergne all have crashes at times throughout the qualifying sessions, but now, as you can see, Jenson Button there already setting his stall relatively early. Looks as if he's going to cut across to the right there. As you can see, the 5 lights though are now on, and they are now off, and as you can see, Jenson Button sticking to that plan, coming across slightly. They were going to use a bit of curves. We've got Sebastian Vettel there behind us on the grid, behind him, past Maldonado. We brake for turn 1 and we run right into the back of Sergio Perez. Completely my fault, I just misjudged my braking zone, and they were a bit cautious on the brakes. We've gone up the inside of both McLarens. Perez there thinking about going back up the inside, but we've got up to 7th there from the grid. We've got Romain Grosjean up ahead, and Lewis Hamilton, who's had an absolute shock of a start there in the Mercedes. He's down to 5th. It can't be Nico Rosberg because he's way down in 15th on the grid, I do believe. But running up the back there of Romain Grosjean as well, and Perez there thinking about looking up the inside as we now turn into this extremely tight hairpin. Behind us now, both the McLarens there in 8th and 9th. But what a good start to this race we've had there. However, we've not done a very good job at all of that corner on the way into the tunnel, and now we've got Sergio Perez absolutely all over the back of us in our slipstream. We're going to try and brake late for the chicane, and we do no chance of a move there for Perez. We get a warning for corner cutting. I did outbrake myself slightly into that chicane, and now down into this corner that I've been finding difficult all weekend. Very cautious, staying away from the barriers and doing this quick flip-flop chicane there. Grosjean up ahead behind the Mercedes of Hamilton as we smash into the bollock. Kimi Raikkonen is up ahead of him in the Lotus in 4th place. We've missed the apex there slightly through the penultimate corner. I used to know the corner names of this track. I have forgotten them, unfortunately. I know Rascasse and Casino, but that's pretty much it. And I'll try and learn. It's a bit late though, really now. But nevertheless, we are in 7th as we now start lap 2 down into turn 1, and we've got a bit of a decent gap now back to Perez. But there is, unfortunately, a big gap now starting to emerge to the Frenchman, to the Lotus, up ahead of Romain Grosjean. We've hit the wall on the outside. There, if that was a real race, I'd be gone, and I'd have caused a huge pile-up behind as we avoid the massive bump in the road there. Now down towards this right-hand turn, and now down into the hairpin. Not sure who's leading. I'm going to guess it's probably Fernando Alonso. I didn't actually have a look, but the Ferrari's doing a great job in qualifying, getting Alonso first and Massa 3rd, and due to the fact that Hamilton's down in 5th, I can only assume that Massa is in 2nd. It's also quite interesting to see we haven't had an accident yet, of course. This being a street track means there's a huge proneness to accident even amongst the AI, and you could see that 4 crashes in qualifying. In qualifying, that amounts to about half a race. It's ridiculous, and 4 crashes was pretty unreal. Nevertheless, we are starting to gain a little bit more time back now on Romain Grosjean, actually up ahead as we turn into this penultimate double apex hairpin, if you like, and now through the last corner, making a little bit of a hash of that. But Perez now starting to get all over the back of us. We haven't got exactly a train, though, behind us. Just Perez, and now moving on to lap 4. DRS has obviously been enabled because we are in dry conditions. It might be overcast, but there is no rain forecast for this race. We've not actually had any rain this series. Any lasting rain, really. I mean, there was rain at Malaysia, but it didn't really affect the race as Massa sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:17 dead. Great lap there. Alonso is in fact in the lead, as I can confirm up at the top of the screen there. Just checking the tyre wear and the tyre temperature. And it would appear as though my front 2 tyres are starting to get a little bit overheated, and I would have thought are starting to wear. But in terms of the rear tyres, they're probably looking at a pretty good temperature, actually, and shouldn't be wearing a great deal. Obviously, the front tyres are the ones that wear the most, but we've gone wide there, and that was completely my mistake, just misjudging the apex for the hairpin there. That was a corner that I've not struggled at all weekend, actually, and I've managed to get it wrong this one time. And that means that now we've got the 2 McLarens all over us. Actually, we haven't got a huge train behind them. It's just literally the 2 McLarens, and we've made a complete hash of that chicane. Goodness me. On lap 5 here, we've made a complete hash of that. And now we've got Perez and Button absolutely all over us. Starting to get a few snaps of oversteer now through the slower corners. But still, only these 2 trapped behind. The rest of them, we seem to be lapping at a pretty similar pace to the guys down in 10th and such like, as Mark Webber now sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:16.9 in the Red Bull, starting to get a bit of tyre wear pretty evenly across all tyres, actually, interestingly, as we now head through the casino complex here. And Perez now, I can't believe Perez actually hasn't made the move, to be honest. Although, of course, this is a track where it's very hard to overtake, being a street track, as we now are on lap 6 of 20, now 3 laps away from when I'm planning to pit, although if the tyre wear keeps up at this current rate, I might have to pit a little bit sooner there. We've done a good job. We're doing a good job of maintaining the gap, however. Although they are sort of all over us a lot of the time, we are able to maintain a pretty constant gap through the middle and last sector. It's really only the first sector that they managed to keep up. I mean, look, we've gapped them again there through that chicane, as Button is now all over his teammate Sergio Perez. A bit of a gap behind, but I've actually just noticed on the mini-map a few moments ago, Pastor Maldonado is a long way behind me. I don't know how he got such a bad start, but it would appear as though he's not going to be getting any points this weekend. And we've gone wide again there at the hairpin now as we move on to lap 7, and Perez there trying to make a move up the inside, making contact with our side pod. We got a bit of oversteer as well, which turned us into him, unfortunately. But yeah, as you can see on the mini-map, Maldonado way behind. Still only just making it through the casino complex. I'd actually say he's probably the last of the runners in front of the Marushas and Caterhams, so it doesn't look as if he's going to be helping us out in terms of points. Massive amounts of oversteer, though, through the chicane there. And we may have maintained a bit of a gap through this middle sector, but I don't think it'll last very long with the amount of tyre wear that's going on. Apparently we've just gone purple by 30 seconds through the middle sector. Somehow I think that's a little bit of a mistake. We are down to 21 as well, so we've lost someone from this race as Alonso there briefly sets the fastest lap of the race. But now moving on to lap 8, I'm not standing for this. I'm not standing for this nonsense. I'm going to have to come in and pit now. I'm sorting my tyres out. I'm confirming I'm going to have to move on to the primes. Look at this, I'm rally driving it round these last 2 chicanes. We've now got Sebastian Vettel on the end of this train as well, who hasn't made any progress through the field, and to be honest, doesn't appear to be that fast either. He's also brought a Force India with him as well, who I'm going to guess is Paul di Resta. I think he was the higher of the Force Indias in qualifying. As Felipe Massa now sets the fastest lap of the race, we get contact from one of the McLarens, but we're going to pit anyway, it doesn't really matter, and we're going to be followed in by Button, by a Mercedes, by everyone, basically. I didn't even realise there were that many people in the train, but nevertheless, Nico Rosberg coming in as well, followed by a Force India. Will it be a good pit stop? It is a 3.1 second pit stop, which maintains our position ahead of Jenson Button, who will be seriously annoyed as Esteban Gutierrez goes past. We're going to exit the pit lane in 12th, and we're now going to rejoin the action at the end of the outlap to see if we manage to maintain a position ahead of Sergio Perez. Somehow I doubt it. There's Daniel Ricciardo coming out the pits, and Perez is already through turn 1. We've tried the undercut on him, but simply could not manage it, and the faster car has come out on top, unfortunately. We are now down to 8th of 21 drivers. We have, of course, lost someone from this race. I don't know who that is. It must have been someone from behind because we didn't go up a position at all. Of course, we are now halfway through this race on lap 10. Jenson Button still behind. I tell you who's done really well out of this. Daniel Ricciardo now in the points. The Toro Rosso don't actually have any points in the Constructors' Championship this season, so Daniel Ricciardo could be on the cards to get their first points this season. He's done the reverse of the undercut and managed to leapfrog about 6 cars, including Vettel, Rosberg, a Force India and someone else as well. Now moving on to lap 11, though, we still maintain the position to Jenson Button on these prime tyres, but it's disaster, and we've made a hash of the hairpin, a complete hash of the hairpin, even having to reverse to get out of the wall. And we've lost a huge amount of time, not only to Jenson Button, but we're now behind Daniel Ricciardo, reinforcing his position in the points. Now up into 9th. This is going to be a monumental effort to get back to where we were up in 7th earlier on in the race. Sergio Perez is miles ahead. He's already going through the third of the chicanes on this lap. And Jenson Button now up into 8th. But we are still pretty close to Daniel Ricciardo. We're going to put him under some big amounts of pressure. We've actually got Maldonado right behind. And someone on the line's lost one of his end fences. That could explain why he's so far behind, as he is in 11th, but holding up people a treat behind. I don't think he's pitted yet, as we now have access to DRS, of course, down this home straight. Not exactly helping us a huge amount, but looking there at the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, he looks gettable, to be honest, here. The Toro Rosso driver, the future Red Bull driver here, as we are now on lap 12 with Maldonado behind. He is holding everyone up, an absolute treat. There's about 4 cars there behind him, including Vettel, Rosberg, a Force India and probably a few others, but doing a great job of that here. We're now down to 20 drivers. We've lost someone, and we're up into 9th, so we've lost someone from up in front, and we're now up into 9th again. So this battle is now for 8th place here with Daniel Ricciardo, and Maldonado, my teammate, is in the points for the first time in quite some time. Both Williams are now in the points. Unfortunately, we've lost a bit of time there to Ricciardo going down into the tunnel. We have like chances to get past him, and as you can see, we're all over the back of him. But unfortunately, down into that chicane, where I'm much faster than the AI, they pull out down the tunnel part of the track. I made a complete hash of that sentence, but yeah, they do pull out a lot through there. Nevertheless, we're coming through the tunnel now again on the next lap, on lap 13, slightly closer. We might be able to make a little bit of a move because they are extremely slow. We're not going to lunge up the inside, but we might get a much better exit, and we do. Give him a bit of a tap because I wasn't expecting him to be that slow through the corner, and we make it through. Great move there from us. We've hit the wall on the outside, which doesn't help, but we are now up into 8th place past Daniel Ricciardo. We unfortunately, though, however, appear to have lost, oh, for God, well, I was about to say lost something else, but we've now lost our end fence there, the right end fence, which is not going to help us at all. Since passing Daniel Ricciardo, we're like, I was going to say the average GP3 drive, but it's much worse than that. Much worse than that. I was, however, about to say we appear to have lost Maldonado from the training group. He must have pitted or something, or encountered problems, but we're now ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Rosberg, who now finds himself in the points in 10th place. He's not been having a good last 2 races. Obviously, that disaster in Spain, and now here, bad qualifying. But we've got Ricciardo and Rosberg all over us now, as tyre wear is starting to set in here. But Rosberg's managed to get ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. I think Sebastian Vettel has. We've managed to hold up the Toro Rosso man so much. He's lost 2 places, or whether he was just slow through that chicane like he was when we tried to get past him. But Rosberg now up into 9th as we clatter into that bollard again. We've gone wide there as well, and now Rosberg all over us with his fellow German Sebastian Vettel all over the back of us. Both of those title contenders. Rosberg was leading the championship going into Spain, and Sebastian Vettel was leading the championship going into this round. Well, it looks as if Lewis Hamilton should take that place back at the top of the championship standings after this one. We're now moving on to lap 18. Only 3 more laps to hold on these prime tyres. A huge amount of understeer there through what I think is Rascas. I can't actually remember. Nevertheless, avoiding the bump in the road and going defensive into this right-hand turn to keep Nico Rosberg behind. This is going to have to be another monumental defensive effort here as we go through this hairpin, trying to hold off 2 title contenders in much faster cars here, Rosberg and Vettel. This is going to be very difficult as we now head into the tunnel here for the 18th time in this race. A lot of tyre wear now starting to take hold. We've got a lot of damage to the front wing. We've lost both end fences. And that is seriously hurting us, unfortunately, with the massive amounts of understeer we appear to have. A little bit of understeer there through the chicane as well. But we have managed to get out another gap again to Rosberg, Vettel, Ricciardo and the Force India of Paul Di Resta behind, as per usual, through that chicane, where we break a lot later than everyone else. We're relatively clean through that chicane as well. We've just got to tidy up this last part of the lap, which we're doing relatively well here, actually. And now through the last corner, as we're about to start the penultimate lap of this race. Not a huge train behind. We're not catastrophically slow like we were at the end of the Spanish Grand Prix, but we do have a train of 4 cars behind, almost going into the wall there on the outside of the first corner there, into turn 1. As it was a double negative because I said first cut, but anyway, you don't care. Another huge amount of understeer and into the wall on the outside. I really need to be slower through there and more cautious because it's losing me a huge amount of time just running into the wall every time due to that understeer and partly due to me misjudging the corner. But we are not having much oversteer, really, compared to what we were having before on the option tyres. These haven't completely capitulated like the option tyres did earlier on this penultimate lap. It would be starting to get impossible to drive at this point if I was on the option tyres. But a bit of understeer, a bit of oversteer, but it's not absolutely horrendous. No rain, of course, in this Grand Prix, despite it being overcast for the entire race. I hope there's rain at some point during this series, because it's just been dry at every race, bar Malaysia, where there was a little bit of rain. But nevertheless, I'm actually starting to wonder if there's a Marussia or a Caterham at the front of the battle that's following this, because we are going quite slowly, to be quite honest. Our last lap was our best lap, sorry, was a 1:18.6, which is pretty dire, to be honest. So these laps are going to be horrendous, verging on late 1:19s, to be honest, as we now flick into the rich mixture for this last lap of the race. We obviously had a normal fuel strategy as my phone goes off in the background, so we are able to put the fuel mixture into rich for this final lap of the race to try and maintain this gap, as we're now a little bit more cautious through the casino complex, not having just a huge amount of understeer that would send us into the wall. Fernando Alonso's won. That's probably the closest I've been to being lapped, actually, all series, although I suppose it is a very short lap here in Monaco, only a 1:20, well, no, it isn't really. It's a 1:16 lap. It's just that I've been going for 1:20s the last, 5 laps. Anyway, a few marbles on the tyres, as you can see on the outside, right, front, outside. That doesn't make sense because there isn't actually an inside tyre. Really, otherwise I'd have to have more than 2, but I don't. Obviously, that's beyond the point. Nico Rosberg all over us now down into this chicane. But as per usual in this race, we defend very well by braking very late. A bit of oversteer on the exit, but look at the gap we've gained again here on the exit of that corner. Much better in terms of traction or exit speed or something, I don't know. But we are maintaining this gap, and it looks as if, beyond a complete disaster, we should be able to hold on to this 8th place here, which is going to be another great finish, another points finish here, the 2nd in a row after that 3 in a row at the start of the year. Coming through the last corner though now, and it looks as if we are going to take another points finish, 4 points here for Williams. No points, unfortunately, for Pastor Maldonado, although a very promising qualifying meant that he should really have been challenging, but he's way down in 19th, incredibly. Our finish of 7th or above objective is unfortunately failed, only by 1 place, agonisingly, but nevertheless, a win for Fernando Alonso and a 1-2 for Ferrari. Felipe Massa again in 2nd after that pretty dull race for us, really, but an exciting one in terms of getting points. 3rd there, Lewis Hamilton on the podium to reclaim even the lead in the Drivers' Championship. 4th and 5th for Lotus, by far their best weekend of the year. For Raikkonen there and Grosjean. Perez in 6th, ahead of teammate Button in 7th. We claim 8th, ahead of Rosberg. Vettel only 1 point there in 10th. Ahead of Ricciardo, desperately unlucky not to claim Toro Rosso's first points of the series. Di Resta there in 12th. Van der Gaard there in 13th, ahead of Hulkenberg, Byrne and Gutierrez and Suter. So Van der Gaard doing a great job of holding everyone up there behind in 13th, getting Caterham's best result of the season, I think, and that should put them 10th in the championship, I do believe, in that vital battle between them and Marussia. Maldonado there down in 19th, only ahead of Chilton, as we lost Webber and Jules Bianchi, I do believe, in that race. In a bad race for Marussia, in all honesty. But now looking at the Drivers' Championship, Hamilton does in fact claim the lead, I think now by 6 points or 8, I can't really see on this preview, but one of the two. Felipe Massa moving up into 3rd, really missed the consistency in this championship there, the Brazilian on 73, just ahead of Nico Rosberg there by 3 points. Alonso there moving up into 5th now after that win, ahead of Raikkonen, Perez and Button. We maintain 9th, but now only 9 points now behind Button as he extends that lead ahead of us, but we extend our lead now ahead of Nico Hulkenberg after he doesn't get any points. Webber now down in 11th after another non-score Gutierrez there, 12th, ahead of Grosjean and Maldonado and Sutil, the last of the point scorers there. De Resta still with no points to his name. Both him and Daniel Ricciardo coming very close to points this time out. And of course there, Jean-Eric Vergne, Guido van der Garde now the top of the Marussia versus Caterham battle after that 13th place, ahead of the rest of them. We're now looking at the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes top there. They've been reeled in a lot now by Ferrari there. Only 36 points now the gap after that 1-2 finish for Ferrari. Red Bull there slipping down now into third in the Constructors' Championship. Webber not offering a great deal of help there to Sebastian Vettel in that one. McLaren there, fourth out of Lotus, then Sauber. We only now 2 points behind Sauber in that chase in the Constructors' Championship. We'll be looking to take that back because the next track is Canada, one that I really enjoy, and I'll be looking really for a high point scoring finish in that one. Force India there, down in 8th, and the last of the point scorers with only 1, and that belongs to Sutil. Nevertheless, I'm hoping you've enjoyed the return of the Williams Road to Recovery. This will be sort of every other week there, as my guy's sort of very disappointed, unfortunately, with that result, which he shouldn't be, really. It was a good result, but I know he failed his objective. Nevertheless, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Comment about enjoying it if you enjoyed it that much, and don't forget to give me any tips on how to improve the series. And whether you really like this series, if you want me to make the videos longer or shorter, just tell me in the comment section, and I will try and do so for you. Nevertheless, hope you have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.